other companies also which using the same machine as um, when it will get be failure and when can you able to change these, and all these details will be applied in the data market. So when the like pool of data is available outside, so we can reduce the problems come for the machines. For like some they can improve the same kind of profit, and they can improve the quality of the machine still more.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the key is the data, having data to understand or to come out with predictive maintenance, that's the
Yeah, the data for others also. The data which this machine is capturing, this predictive AI is capturing. AI is entirely related to our cloud. So when we are using the infrastructure of cloud, so others will also come to know that this machine will do like this only when we are using it. So in this place we have to do. So that will be automated again for other, not in the human brain, other in other AI machines. So automatically it's like
can be reused is what you are trying to say.
So then these digital twins are coming. The same kind of machines can be copied to the other location also. This operation will certainly happen in that place because of the digital twins. Thank you.
Right. With this, we'll move on to the third, focus area, which is again supply chain. So supply chain is a very interesting area now, and especially in the pandemic, all of us have seen, all the supply chains are broken. Even now, the companies are trying to get back on their feet. Especially the chip industry is still, trying to make up those losses. So we would like to understand, how AI can actually enhance either, forecasting better, or can it improve inventory management better, or increase warehousing efficiency. So what are all the things that AI can do in the overall supply chain? While, again, McKinsey report says that 61% of the executives who actually implemented AI in supply chain, they said there is a decrease in costs to the company. That is one. And it also contributed to the increase in revenues. So that is the potential of AI that we are looking in supply chain. So I'll start with Akansha, in the supply chain. So please share your views on this.
Yeah, I think supply chain is one of the important aspects, because we in manufacturing, right, we have the sourcing of parts, we have, and then once the equipment is built, right, you have to sell it somewhere, right? So there has to be a demand and a supply aspect to it, right? And there are a lot of variabilities around, right? You might have seen the pandemic, how is that affected the chip industry, which affected laptops, which affected cars, which affected connected components, right? And I mean the whole the flow, right, and the whole connected area industry got affected, right? So getting the right price in supply chain, AI plays a very important role in that. Keeping the right inventory, like for example, possibly some smart automotive industry, if they would have kept a good, if they would have predicted the pandemic, and they would have kept a good cheap thing, right, in the stock, they would not have got affected, right? So the right price, the right inventory, so that the wastage is reduced, you still meet your customer service level, and AI plays a big role in that, right? A lot of these supply chain problems have been solved mathematically in the past, but lately, due to AI unraveling a lot of other parameters that a human brain was not able to decipher, right? The whole supply chain area has been affected in a positive way. The second thing is the warehouses, right? Warehouses, optimizing the warehouse actually adds to the bottom line directly. So having right models to right AI models to optimize the warehouse slotting or picking of products, right, in large warehouses, reducing the congestion, right, affects the margins, right? So in the supply chain area, logistics, the inventory, the safety stocks, the right price, getting the right, predicting the right demand, right? Predicting the right demand also needs to take a lot of causal factors, right? So you if you know that there is a festival and you have to incorporate that in a demand, obviously you do not predict pandemic, but then at least what you can say, if something like pandemic happens, do I have a fail-safe mechanism, right? And so a lot of these questions can get answered through AI, and there is a strong opportunity of AI in supply chain, and I see this across manufacturing, retail, oil and gas, right? Look at crude price, right? I mean, the price due to what? Due to the global effects, the price varied a lot. But then again, right? Again, due to some countries still taking oil, right? The price got normalized, right? So, understanding the effect of these specific causal factors and incorporating it into pricing models and demand models is one of the key aspect that still needs that still isn't mature in the AI industry now. I think there's a scope and an opportunity in that.
Thank you so much. In fact, when you were talking about this, which is relevant to the industry, I was actually, correlating it to different use cases within the government. For example, we have a huge public distribution system, right from Government of India to the different states. And it's food grains, it could be agriculture subsidies, fertilizers, you name it. There's so many things in the supply chain. While we are able to have basic systems in place, but we do not really right now have any advanced, solutions that can really help in optimizing, number one, the process. Second, ensuring that the quality of the, grains or whatever that is supposed to reach the last mile, are we maintaining that? That's second. And third important area that, as you mentioned, is price discovery. For example, in agriculture, right now, most of the farmers, they do not know what price, their vegetables or their, rice, wheat. Of course, there are certain food grains that have MSP, but other than that, most of the farmers, they do not know at what is the demand, basically. So these are the areas, where probably Reliance can help us within the government also. Yeah, thank you. That's a very insightful, discussion that we have had on this. I'll move on to George now to actually add to what Akansha said. Yeah.
So I can give you a good example in supply chain in food delivery actually. So when it comes to AI, recently the food delivery companies, you may see the list of foods in your app. So you will list of the menus and everything. So whenever a menu is getting over in the hotel, so they just if they are because of they adapted the AI in supply chain, so they just close that point. So automatically in all over the nationally which they are using the app, the menu it will be taken out. So it will be very easy for the consumer to know that food is not there in the hotel right now. So we can go for the other hotels by searching. And most of the companies, when we are approaching the supply chain, which what they are looking for is like they may problem if you are calling and asking for a stock, they'll immediately ask us to wait in the call for minimum 2 to 5 minutes, and they will check and go for the stocks whether it is available or not, and we have to be patiently waiting in our phone. So when we are using AI in supply chain, we don't want to worry about the understocks, as well as we don't want to worry about the overstocks of our things also. So by this way, it will give more value for the delivery, automatic delivery of the company of shipping also has to be happen. So this is how this will work on.
Yeah, that's a good example that you shared. Food supply. In fact, most of these companies, Swiggy, Zomato, probably really, they are already incorporating that. Yes. But most of companies are yet to still incorporate that.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, George. Then, next over to you, Funny.
So let me start with a small example. Like when you construct a house, what items should be ordered well in advance and what items should order later part, right? So you don't order bricks you order the steel and the cement for the foundation, then you go with the bricks. So that's the house, and we know it traditionally how to construct the house. But when it comes to the big project like a dam construction, or probably you're erecting a company, a steel company, right from the scratch, right? So you should know those things. So if few items they may get spoiled if you order them well in advance. And the other side, when it talk about e-commerce companies, right? So it is very sensitive for us to say like they are not serving better. Like where that effect comes from? If they say more, no stock, no stock, no stock, you will be very disappointed because your occasions are important for you, right? So for every e-commerce company, it's very essential for them to maintain a safety stock. What does it mean? Is like this level of the stock which they should always possess, so that they don't say no to a customer, anyone. So that's what Akanksha was also telling, right? So to consider that small piece, so there is a lot of maths that has to done with respect to artificial intelligence, right? So you have to consider, because not every order which you purchase, they have it there in warehouse. Sometimes they have to ship it from China, and sometimes it will be on the water, right? So they have to consider every factor. And the other thing is your warehouse, right? Warehouse, every space in the warehouse comes with a cost, right? You don't maintain unnecessary stock on the warehouse if you don't need them, right? So you just predict at the SKU level what are all the items that are sold fast and what are all the items that are lethargic, they are moving slow, okay? If you have these insights, to get these insights is not that easy. So you have to do a lot of analysis, a lot of clustering, things needs to happen over the period, and collect the data from the history, how my items are sold, what is my peak, what is my crust, and give it to the machine learning model. That model tells you what are all your items and what stock you have to maintain, what is your economic order quantity, EOQ we call it, okay? Such that you don't order too many also, right? As George was telling, you can't order too many so that I am on the safety stock, right? So you have to maintain in such a way that you have to balance your profit, you have to balance your stock, right? So these are the challenges when it comes. So you have to analyze a lot of factors, okay? And I'll just end with one small thing. Probably in the urban population, the item is sold differently. When you want to expand your business to the rural population, the same product response will be different, right? Same thing with any of the industries also, right? When the place where you establish how to manage your resources at that point is important. So AI is matured enough at this point, at least in the supply chain management. I mean, still a lot of research is going on, but at least in the supply chain management, it's doing really good in predicting your stocks, I mean to say the stock of the items very well in advance, okay? So that gives, what is the advantage of AI in these areas?
Well, I'll give you the opportunity to speak at the last for this particular, focus area on supply chain, Nitin.
Right. So I think pretty much all the components of supply chain management has been covered by the expert panel here. I'll go to the first principle of supply chain management. The first principle of supply chain management is made for its certainty, meaning you send something from one point and it should reach to the other point. The supply side and the demand side gets connected by a pipeline. That is certainty of the system being designed for it, right? The main quantity which should concentrate on while deciding the robustness of the supply chain or reliability of the supply chain is what we call in mathematical terms the uncertainty quantification. If you can quantify that uncertainty, whether there is a disruption in the supply chain, whether my inventory is going to go low, whether the demand will outrun the supply, or there will be a disruption in supply. All these uncertainty, when can be quantified by AI, that can bring much more live reliability to supply chain pipeline, which is originally designed to sustain all this disruption, right? I feel like that's the area we should be able to concentrate upon, to challenge the uncertainty and understand and provide the mitigation point where after certain level of uncertainty we should take action, right? that after certain time, like there is a festival coming, then there will run out of all the supply, then we should restock. That is the quantification which we can take from AI, learning from past experiences, learning from new models, and then bring that robustness to supply chain management. And that can apply to any micro level supply chain or macro level supply chain if you go for a national supply chain, international or global, if you say so, right? I believe that's the key focus area we should figure out, that is uncertainty quantification in the supply chain management.
Yeah, that's a good point. How do you remove uncertainty to ensure that a product that is being shipped from point A essentially reaches at point B within the stipulated time, that's a very good point. Now, I think we have covered all the three areas. Just we are wrapping up this session by just one last question, which will be posed to all of you. It's a 30-second answer you need to give it, sum it up in. So the question is, what are the top three things the manufacturers or the industry need to do to leverage or adopt AI? I start from Nitin, yeah.
All right. I get so I'm manufacturing background, we challenging three things. First is the vision. Want to have AI as your first strategy, right? Then you need to have a fearlessness in yourself. So you can break down the old system and bring out new system. That basically requires a lot of fearlessness, right? And the third is the fast fail approach, meaning when we have a manufacturing system, we are very comfortable with equations. We are comfortable with our mathematics. We don't really appreciate an engineer failing in his calculation. We try to give them hard time. But if you want to do some kind of an experiment in AI, then you need to be very comfortable with fail first. You can fail a lot of times and then maybe you can succeed. The latest example is the SpaceX model of testing.
Right. Yeah, vision, bold, I would say fearlessness is
fearlessness, boldness.
Bold, and fast fail are the three top things that you are looking at. Over to you, George, for the top three things. So it's kind of, yeah, please.
Sorry. So according to me, the approach of AI from the company side, if they want to initialize, if they want to start implementing AI with them, they have to come out of their old infrastructure to the current infrastructure to update. So usually the companies will have the fear of costing on all those things. So what we approach, like where we approach to how to implement the AI in their product first. So once the product get implemented and they feel the profit of that products and everything, then they'll change their entire infrastructure to get automated as they know that there is some kind of value is there, some kind of profit is available in these things. But the investment for do the R&Ds for their infrastructure is nowadays is going to be very expensive nowadays. So what our main approach, our main approach to the company is like, first we will try to implement something in their product in AI, so that they will be, nowadays everybody talk about AI, but people doesn't know what is AI, but they will talk about AI. The problem is like they have to feel it first. So we will make them to feel, and then we will make them to implement AI for the entire infrastructure.
Sure, infrastructure awareness is what you have.
First we will implement to the products of them.
Okay.
So the AI awareness will come for them, then we'll go for the industry to change.
Sure. Yeah, next, Akansh.
Yeah, so the
top three.
Top three, right? The first thing is AI is just not a buzzword, AI is a necessity. Simple, right? There's period. AI is required, AI is the future. The second thing is AI cannot go in a silo. It's not like just hire data scientists and just give them data and it will work. No, AI needs a lot of domain understanding. For every, I would say, data scientist, there has to be a subject matter expert to help the data scientist. So AI cannot go solo. The third thing is there is a strong prerequisite for AI, that is digitization, which I think is the level 0 of Ashtang AI of Silas Stock. Yeah. Digitization is a key thing. So spend time and effort in digitizing your data and then start implementing AI. Doesn't matter whether your revenue is X or 100X or 1000X.
Yeah, that's the spot on. I would say, data digitization is the core of AI. I really like that. Yeah, over to you, Funny, now. Top 3 things that the industry should do to leverage AI.
Oh yeah, sure. So the way I look at it is like before you want to implement the AI and after you want to implement the AI. So before you want to implement the AI, the first thing you need to think is what problem you are trying to solve in your company. Right. If you don't have the problem, there is no point in going for AI. I mean, most of the times you may think that it is fancy, but as Akang said, it is going to be mandatory. So what problem you are trying to solve? And the second question is like, do you have the enough data? Okay. If you don't have the enough data, what is that you have to do get the data? So these are the 3 things before you start implementing. And after you start implementing, by the time you get all these things, you will get some clarity. Okay. And if you have that confidence that you can solve that problem, probably you can take some risks. Okay. So you can revamp your whole system. Okay. But you have to be fearless. The same thing what you people are saying. Okay. And just take a little bit of risk, a calculated risk, and try to get that implemented. So the starting point is the data. If you have the data, you'll have a solution, and you need to know what the problem you want trying to solve. Okay, so that is what my take on this.
Thank you, Funny. That's really important. What's the problem that you're trying to solve? And from my side, top 3 I would be looking at is the leadership support, from the top, the corporate support. They need to actually embrace this technology. That's number 1. Second, you need to have a team in place, the right team in place. Third is, as Funny was mentioning, identify a problem where AI can actually deliver value or impact. Start small in one unit probably, and then once it's successful, you can scale it up. So these are the 3 from my side. So I think it has been a great experience, discussing about AI in the manufacturing sector with all the panelists, bringing out varied views, because each one of them are working in different areas within AI. I hope this session has been useful to all of you, and at least we were able to convey, what can the manufacturing industry do in terms of leveraging AI, what are the areas that the industry can immediately look into, to adopt AI, and what's the value that it delivers in various 3 areas that we have chosen. Thank you all. I thank all the panelists, for being here and actually taking out your time to be here. Thank you. Any questions from your side? 5 minutes. We can take 1 or 2 questions.
I'm Venu Verma. I'm representing European ecosystem here. But I don't see any big Indian company implementing anything in Industry 4.0. We are all followers. I hope to see more leaders, madam. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think in the next 25 years, when India turns 100, you will definitely see that.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
So this question is to Nitin sir. Sir, I come from a chemical processing background. So basically, I wanted to understand, as the technology evolved to be implemented in a dynamics, in order, to implement in a dynamic actions. So for example, in chemical processing industry, you know that the time that reaction takes is like very small, the fraction of seconds, like it is up or down. So there are incidences like where accidents happen and etc. So is the technology evolved so that we can take in controllable actions within that shorter period of time? So is the data processing capacity is built now?
2 things. First of all, the real-time optimization, which is right now in place, has a window of 90 minutes to 1 hour based on the process residence time. It takes time for the process even to catch up to the optimization target. If you have a 1,000-meter cube tank, it will take time to drain that tank and fill that tank. That's a residence time or the time to process to activate. Now, how much of a dynamicity we are talking about depends on the process, right? Our controls are also made up for that only, when we then design the control accordingly. These days, from the deterministic side of modeling to a deterministic side of optimization, we are now moving to the more dynamic system. There are products which are right now challenging that particular paradigm. right? There are companies which are trying experimenting with that, right? And as you are a chemical engineer, you know that nobody will give you control unless until you do it at pilot plant study, pilot plant test, and then make that use case, make that particular case that my controller or my optimizer is good for the live plant after you do an open loop testing, right? This time the technology is on our side. Previously the computational was not there, but now the computational is on our side. We have multiple clusters of processors which can calculate very finite floating point calculation, which is highly required for a very deep process optimization, right? Previously there were Intel processors which were highly targeted towards the integer calculation, like the server load, which will handle the requests of coming from a integer perspective. But from the engineering side, we are much more dependent on the floating point calculation. The 7th order decimal point, we are much more. So right now GPUs and CPUs are capable of doing that. So we have the technology on site. Now the systems which are now going to optimize dynamically has to respect that physical constraint, whether if I even ask the system to change, whether the system is able to change or not. Like if you take example of a simple water heating, right? If a water will take 10 minutes to heat, it will take 10 minutes to heat. It cannot do very fast even if you ask it to do it fast, unless until you have unlimited duty or heat source, right? So we need to respect these boundaries and then approach the dynamic point. So there are what we call as dynamic optimization suites. They are now able to do that as respected to the physical boundary. So yeah, we are approaching that. Why we are approaching that, I can give you an example. Right now, 5 years ago when your Google Maps were there, it was giving you optimized route to your destination at one point, right? You start saying that I want to go from here to Visakhapatnam, and then it will give you one particular route, and it will stick to that route. Nowadays, Google Map is dynamically optimized. It is able to give you new route based on the information coming dynamically. The weather, the traffic, the disruption in the road, closure, anything else, it will dynamically update and reroute your optimization. So same thing is possible and it's happening in industry, but it is taking its time because of the physical constraint. So I hope I have answered that.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? All right. Thank you, everyone. The discussion was indeed extremely thought-provoking and far-sighted. I'd like to request Natasha to present the speakers with tokens of appreciation now.
We will be conversing with Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Industry and Commerce and IT, Government of Telangana. Well, this fire chat will be moderated by Mr. Pankaj Dewan, so please help me welcome them on the stage with a huge round of applause.
First of all, sir, let me thank you for taking your time out. We have a lot of questions, and blockchain being a topic where Telangana government has made such huge strides, people look upon you to give an overarching view of how government and policy makers are looking at blockchain, plus what are the kind of enabling things that startups can look forward to. So let's dive into the topic on hand today, which is blockchain. And again, Telangana government has been on the forefront of adopting blockchain, coming up with blockchain policy initiatives like blockchain district. And this is well before a lot of other states talked about it or thought about it. So we want you to take us through the journey of the blockchain initiatives in the state. And yesterday you gave us a little hint about some announcement which is going to be made today. So I also request you to talk a little about that.
The genesis of supporting emerging technologies like blockchain came again from that same origin. The message that we got that we should embrace technology, we should embrace startups who bring those technologies. So again, as a government, this is something very novel and very unique, that we created a wing in our IT department whose job was to exclusively focus on emerging technologies. And all this is way back in 2014 rather. So we created a team, and Rama Devi Garu, who heads that emerging technology wing. So this is a wing which identifies which are the technologies which have greater potential to actually solve or provide solutions to some of the pain points of the common person, and who are using those technologies, what are the use cases elsewhere in the world. So in 2014 itself, we had identified 8 such emerging technologies. Of course, AI is something which is very prominent today. In 2014 also, it was beginning to show its prowess. So AI was one, but blockchain was the other one, which we had identified. And in those days, again in 2014, the clarity that we have on blockchain today was not that clear. In fact, as all of us would know, the understanding of blockchain was very much related to crypto, that you can have an alternate way of dealing with your financial transactions, which is digital, which is easy to operate. But immediately thereafter, once we decided that we'll get into blockchain, lots of controversies started, like trading in crypto, the valuations, and some people losing their money when the valuations go down and things like that. Became very speculative. Then Reserve Bank started commenting on it, dissuading governments from getting into this kind of activity. And they, for some reason, they're still maintaining that stand, that we should be very wary of crypto. So I'm not taking any stand on that. This is what the Reserve Bank stand was. But then when we started understanding the way blockchain and crypto are getting linked together, we felt that we can disaggregate it. Let the crypto path be followed as per national regulations, because states don't have any flexibility in deciding that they will support crypto or they will ban crypto, etc. But on the technology part, states have complete autonomy to adopt it in whichever way we would like to do. So what we do is that for every piece of technology that we are interested in working on, we do 3 things. One is that we announce a policy or a framework which makes it very known and very public and very explicit what responsibilities will the government take. So what is going to be our role, and what roles do we expect from other stakeholders. For example, what roles will be played by the private companies, what roles will be played by the academic institutions, what role will be played by, let us say, some collaborator from Government of India or some international institution, and what roles will be played by the startup. So that document is there. So our blockchain framework, or the blockchain policy as you call, again is something, and we prepare all these documents through lots of bottoms-up kind of research. It's not a ambitious, top-driven kind of a document. We understand very thoroughly what the community is expecting, stakeholders are expecting, and then provide that in the policy. The second very important thing is, and you can see it everywhere, you can see it in T-Hub, you can see it in other institutions like T-Works, P-Hub, Task, Rich, etc., that we create an institution which takes responsibility for it. So the institution which has been created to implement our blockchain programs is called Blockchain District. So it's an institutional, it's a governance arrangement, it's an institutional arrangement. So the founding partners when we launched our blockchain programs were a couple of private organizations, a couple of academic institutions, a couple of Government of India institutions. So all of them have got together to create what is called a blockchain district with a proper governance structure. There is a person who is the coordinator, there are people who represent these institutions in that blockchain district. Governance happens through that district. And the third very important thing, which I already alluded to, is the fact that to run all these institutions, we bring talent, the best talent that is available. See, we are never, right from day one, we have never been under any illusion that the government itself is full of talent. In fact, we are very clear in our minds that far superior talent is outside the government rather than inside the government. And you will not believe it, but at least in my 2 portfolios, I look after the IT and the industries portfolios in the government. In these 2 portfolios that I handle, close to 350 people have been recruited from the open market who work for us. And these are the people who have been recruited based on their ability, their talent, their... so when I told you that 2 of my colleagues are here, they are also not regular government employees. They are people whom we have recruited. They're one of the 350 people. So this again is a very reformative kind of a thought process, that you recognize that government has limitations, government should stay away from micromanagement, government should yield space to better talent which is available outside. So this is the genesis of how we have started doing blockchain programs. And when you see the blockchain policy, or for that matter any other policy that we bring out, one of the commitments that we put right up front is that the government will lead from example. So the earliest adoption of blockchain cases will happen in the government itself. And again, I feel very proud to share with you that since 2016, when the policy first came out, and today, or 2017 rather, 2017 and today, that is 2022, 5 years, we would have tried out at least 24+ use cases in the government. And some of them are very, very significant. I was speaking in an event yesterday. Many of you were there, but not all were there, so I can repeat that example. One of the latest initiatives of ours, we have not publicized it extensively, but we are writing papers on it and will publish it in academic journals and also in a public kind of media, is about remote voting. See, many of us lament that when elections happen, the voting percentage is so low, voter turnout is low. We talk about voter apathy, that people are not connected with democracy, and all kinds of noises are made and all. But whatever could be the reason, one of the basic fundamental reasons is the sheer inconvenience of the voting process. You don't know where your name is, you struggle to find out the polling station, you go there, there's no kind of organized system, you stand in long queues, and sometimes at the end of it you are not even allowed to vote. So all kinds of complications happen on the voting day, election day. So we have been able to showcase for the first time in a live kind of a scenario in a town called Khammam in Telangana, a reasonably sized town, a municipal town that is, how can one do remote voting by sitting at your home. So we have been able to showcase how the voter is identified. See, typically when a regular vote happens, in-person voting that is, lots of contentious issues are raised. For example, impersonation is a very big thing. Like, you are not you are voting for someone else, then your voter ID card, your photograph, all these things are matched. There are some agents who are available there, polling agents, they challenge you if they feel that you are someone else. Similarly, you would have noticed this, that lots of doubts are raised about the electronic voting machines, EVMs. And I have seen this so many times, and in some sense it is very ridiculous also, that when a party loses the election, the first blame is put on faulty EVMs, like someone has tampered with the EVMs, and typically say that the ruling party has tampered. Whoever loses, the easiest excuse is to say that I would have won, but they have configured the EVMs in such a way that whatever button I press, all votes are going to this person only, which is blatantly untrue. And some of you may know this, that these EVMs are actually made in Hyderabad. They are configured in Hyderabad. I have actually been to their factory. I mean, it's not a factory. It's a, let's say I've been to their office, the Electronic Corporation of India, ECIL, and I have seen, they have demonstrated to me how robust the whole system is, how it is literally tamper-proof and all that. So when you are doing remote voting, these kind of allegations, these kind of doubts multiply many-fold. See, you can't even see who is voting from where. So we have been able to allay all these doubts, apprehensions, to showcase how voter is identified, for which he used a facial recognition technology with a very strong AI algorithm. And we were able to show how the votes will be kept secured till the counting happens by using blockchain. So this is an example where we have been, in a way, able to demonstrate a very strong and a very solid application of technology in a very, very charged and complicated context. See, when many of us, most of us are technologists, so sometimes we don't understand the social context, but many times there's an interplay between the technology and society, technology and social context, and this is a very good exemplar of that. And obviously all of us understand the dynamics around voting. Everything can be questioned, everything can be doubted, everything can be blamed. But we have been able to show a situation where nothing of that sort can happen. So it's a very big achievement, and as I said, it has happened because of the application of blockchain. There have been other examples also. This is not the only one. As I told, there are more than 24 use cases. Many use cases today are common across the country. Educational certificates, securing them on blockchain. Many states do that. We have also done it. Land records, because in the land records also, lots of hera-fairy takes place. Many of you would be familiar with that. In fact, I don't know if it is just a rumor or if there is any truth in it, but in our bureaucracy, this example is often quoted, that someone once even sold the Charminar, showing that it belongs to him, and some gullible person from, I think, Dubai or somewhere, he thought that he's going to own a good property in Hyderabad. So obviously all this happens because the land records are not secure, hera-fairy happens. So this is again a very good example. Yesterday again in that same event where I spoke, I gave the example of chit funds. I don't know whether anyone from chitmunks are here or not. Okay, so they are the ones, yeah, I can see him. So they really attempted something which is very, very bold. See, all of you would be familiar that there is an informal credit system, credit and loaning system, which is called chit funds. And they are popular all over the country. Throughout the country, people subscribe to chits. And it's an extremely messy system, extremely non-transparent. In a state like West Bengal, there's a huge scam which has broken out. It is called the Sharada scam. And at one point, there was even a very real threat that the whole government will come down because of that kind of scam. But it is not to say that scams are happening only in West Bengal. I guess because of the loose kind of way in which chit funds are organized, scam potentially can happen anywhere, and possibly they are happening in many other places as well. So using a application, again blockchain based application called T-Chits, we have been able to streamline the way chit funds are administered, and it has helped in multiple ways. The transparency has come, the ability to have control over the auditing and the accounting, etc., how much money is coming, how much you have to pay to whom, all that has become very, very transparent. 2-3 other very good use cases are there. Here, of course, in all these 3 cases that I spoke about, the land records, the educational certificates and the chit funds, here the attempt was to prevent a mischief, some scam to not happen, some fraud to not take place. But there are positive ways also of utilizing blockchain. And again, I feel very happy. I don't see him. Yesterday he was there, Sid from Stratwig, but I don't think he's here today. Or I can't notice if he's here or not. But they have done something for us. This is to improve the credit worthiness of self-help groups, self-help group members. See, some of you may not know this, but in many states in the country, poor women who live in rural areas are organized into self-help groups. And the groups are expected to do regular credit and thrift activities based on which they get some credit worthiness score, and then they receive loans from the banks, and then they repay, they get more loans and things like that. So this system currently ends at the aggregate level, that is at the group level. At the individual members level, you fail to do that scoring. But there is some discipline in the members as well. The group loan eventually gets distributed to the members repay it, then they get back. And obviously there'll be variation. Some members will be more prompt, some members will be less prompt. But when you are aggregating everything, this variation gets kind of covered up. So with the help of Stratwig, we are now trying to figure out credit worthiness of an individual member. So while your group may receive loans, you may receive more loans than others because you are much more disciplined and punctual in your credit and savings habits. So again, a solution is coming from Stratwig. When we talk about fraud, etc., there is something else also which we have been able to get some hold on using blockchain. We know that Hyderabad is a very important center for the pharmaceutical industry. And while the industry is doing well, it is really thriving. But one very, very unhappy or a very unpleasant kind of thing which has entered into the system is the manufacturing and sale and distribution of fake medicines, spurious medicines. And in some cases, I mean in practically all the cases, these things can be very, very fatal. I take a medicine with the belief that it is a genuine medicine, but it's a fake medicine. It can kill me also, potentially. So we have again taken the help of a blockchain startup to work out the traceability mechanism of how the medicine has been produced or manufactured, how it has come into the market, and so on and so forth. Another very good use case that we have is called vehicle life cycle management, where the entire journey of a car, right from the time it is manufactured in a factory, because we noticed, in fact, the transport department told us that there are lots of leakages, revenues which ought to come to them. They don't come when particularly the first or the second transfer happens. I bought the car from the factory, but when I sold it to you and you sold to someone else, the transport department is expected to get higher registration when the second sales happen, but that is concealed. No one admits that I'm buying a second-hand car, etc. So now using this vehicle life cycle management, the revenues will improve and obviously mischief and fraud will come down. So there are many, many such examples, and all these are coming again from the very avowed announcement which we have made in our policy that the government will be leader in adoption. We will lead by example, and then enterprises and everyone else is welcome to also encourage blockchain providers to do so.
Amazing, sir. I think I'm sure a lot of people have experienced all these use cases, have been part of it in some way, but for people who have not known this, I think it's been amazing to hear all these use cases from you and the kind of adoption government has done. So before you make that big announcement, there are a couple of questions which the audience has asked. I may take your permission to ask those questions. And taking from the point that you mentioned about Charminar, right? While it's a joke that Charminar was sold, today it's practically possible to sell Charminar, perhaps as an NFT, without actually selling the real Charminar. And that is where a lot of startups want to know what is the clarity in policy in terms of being a more nuanced approach in crypto versus tokens versus NFTs. So you don't have to take an official stance, sir. I mean, I leave it to you, but I just want to, and the audience here wants to know, both from a state level and at a national level, because you are in touch with all the policymakers all the time. You've also been part of the national blockchain policy, which was released, blockchain standards, which was released. So a lot of startups here are in a very confused state as to how do they go forward. So I'm sure you understood the question, request you to dwell on that.
So first of all, I should admit that our confusion is not any less. We are equally confused. But to come out of that confusion, we are doing something very important, very significant. And that was the big announcement which I was planning to make. So I'm glad that you led me to make that announcement. So there is still regulatory ambiguity. Actually, what gave us this idea was that Minister and I were in Davos attending the World Economic Forum in May, just a couple of months ago. And we met a very prominent VC. It's a global VC, but they claim that 45 of the 100 unicorns have been supported. And it's not a wrong claim. I mean, it's all well documented. So we met their top brass. And then they told us something, that we are very keen to fund startups in this domain. But unfortunately, all the startups in this domain, once they mature, are either going to Dubai or to Singapore. So we engaged them on this conversation. Why is it? Why do you think that instead of remaining in India, they can go anywhere? They can be in Bangalore, they can be in, Gurgaon or wherever. But why are they leaving India? Why should they do that? And then those gentlemen told us that it is because of the ambiguity, uncertainty. They are not sure that if they go ahead in this way, something else will not fall on them. And therefore, to play safe, they are going to these places where there's much more stability of regulation, clarity on regulation, predictability more than anything else of regulation. So at that instant moment itself, we decided that we will help in clearing this confusion, clearing this ambiguity. So the announcement that I'm making is that we are setting up unfortunately I'm not able to give you a precise date, but as soon as possible. We are setting up a regulatory sandbox on Web 3.0, NFT, etc. And so the sandbox, as all of you would know, is a place where you are given access to data, mentors are provided, domain experts are associated with you, and whichever domain that you want to work in, we understand fully what are the existing regulations. If you are pushing the boundary in some particular regulation, who needs to approve that? So we get you all those approvals. As a government, it's not your kind of responsibility to run around. And of course, if you're coming with something which is of relevance to the government, we help you in adoption, in scaling up, and all those things. But as I said, like anything else and like everything else, we want the composition of this regulatory sandbox, the governance structures, what will we deliver, what will we call for. It should all be discussed in a larger forum, and based on your inputs and suggestions, etc., we will create it. It's again not going to be a top-down kind of a wishful thing, which we have never done, and in this instant case also, we will not do. And so that is the reason why I asked my colleagues to come here to talk to people in the breaks and networking sessions, etc. So do let us know over a next few days, what do you expect, what are the pain points that you are facing, what are the challenges you are facing, so that when we create this, we create something which addresses all your doubts and concerns and challenges. We also know that in certain areas, I mentioned this already, the state's powers are kind of constrained and the national agencies' powers are more. So we want to also negotiate with those agencies. So we know that RBI plays a very important role in all these things. So we want to actually create the sandbox with tacit approval of RBI. So their arm here is the IBRDT, as all of us know. So we will be discussing with them how would they like the governance, etc., of this regulatory sandbox. Two of the VC firms have shown interest in actually becoming a part of that regulatory sandbox and supporting it. One is the same VC whom we met at Davos. Other is a Hyderabad-based VC, but again a VC which has recently secured a dedicated amount of fund, and it's a very attractive fund to support people in this domain, Web 3.0, NFT, crypto, etc. So we can expect that this experiment, which will of course be continued for minimum 2 to 3 years, will help us not just as a state but as a country to improve the levels of regulation, to be more business friendly. But at the same time, so when I say that there is a pushback from the Reserve Bank, there is a pushback for some reasons which look to be valid. So we also need to ensure that there are adequate checks, balances, no one misuses, no one kind of makes, they just play with the law, etc. So all those things will be there. But within those legally accepted boundaries, we should hope for a very smooth passage. And just as we have seen a mushrooming of blockchain adoption or AI adoption or IoT adoption, etc., we hopefully will lead this community, the Web 3.0 community, in the same path. Because the fundamental objective of Web 3.0 is very, very important. I mean, that is very relevant, very important, and it is in keeping with the modern ethos of the world that things should be democratized, things should be decentralized, no one should hold any monopoly over the usage of internet, etc., etc.
So I think you gave us more than what we would have ever wished for. Can we have a huge round of applause? I mean, this is going to be an as big moment or bigger moment than the initial blockchain policy or anything that has been announced, sir. And I'm sure people outside our state also are going to be very encouraged with this, because this sets a precedence for other governments also to engage, for other governments also to start thinking on these lines and engage with this sandbox that you're talking about. So thank you so much for this, sir. There were a lot of questions, but I think this one point answers most of those questions in principle. And like you rightly mentioned, it's a sandbox, which is a test bed. So obviously, people have to come with their views, suggestions, applications, and then it'll go through its process of validation. But I think you have set that stage and set that framework. So thank you so much. I think it couldn't have been a better day for Web 3.0 than this kind of statement. I'm telling this with all genuinity, sir. Yesterday, there were very hectic messages and calls that I got from some of the NFT companies and others. And they said, can you just put a word to Jay sir and ask him, can government take a more nuanced stand, crypto versus NFT versus this, and all this answers all their queries. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for this, this thing. So we can go on with you, and the way you talk blockchain, I'm sure a lot of people who call themselves blockchain experts must be wondering, should they come for a 101 tutorial from you on blockchain? So I think amazing clarity and amazing articulation with which you talk about blockchain, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Can we have a round of applause for yes, sir.
Let's kickstart this historic day by inviting onto this Diamond Center our very first keynote speaker. And may I make my way back as I introduce this wonderfully talented and this knowledgeable speaker who's going to kickstart the day today for us. This certain gentleman has co-founded Darwinbox and is currently its head of products. Darwinbox is a technology company that provides cloud-based workforce management and analytics application for businesses. Before co-founding Darwinbox, he had worked as a consultant at EY in their business advisory services division. He's completed his MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. And prior to his MBA education, he has worked with Verizon Communications. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for no other than Mr. Chaitanya Peddi, who's the co-founder and the product head for Darwinbox. We welcome you, sir. The stage belongs to you and the mic is all yours. Let's kickstart the session. Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, hope you're all doing well. So, it's such a proud moment for all of us, especially, I assume many of you are Hyderabadis here. Such a proud moment. So, happy to be associated with this event. Thanks to the organizing team for having me here. So, the session, I assume, we knowing it is about selecting the right co-founder. I got to know about this only 2 days back. So I thought it is little ironical because many of you would have already started the companies. So which means you would have already selected co-founders, right? I mean that was at least my assumption. Just to validate that, how many of you already started companies? How many of you are already entrepreneurs? Okay, so. There is nothing much, probably what I'm going to say help you. But anyway, I mean, I'll try at least say people who haven't started this yet. So as she introduced me, I was a consultant before starting Darwinbox. So consultant means you need to put everything in a framework, right? Sometimes you tend to force it also. So now before coming here, I thought, okay, what should be the framework for? Sure. So before coming here, I was just thinking, okay, what should be the framework for selecting the right co-founder? So I arrived at a framework. So I'm just going to take you through this framework. While doing that, happy to share some of our personal experiences. So Jayant, Rohit, and myself, we started Darwinbox in late 2015. It's been over 6 years. Proud Hyderabadi company. So just reflecting on our journey, needless to say, before starting, entrepreneurship can never be, or at least I don't advise that to be a one person's journey. So if you had to start, I strongly recommend not to do it alone. So do have 1 or 2 good co-founders. 3 is a good number. So don't ever do entrepreneurship on your own. So at least it's all about good times and bad times, right? I mean, more bad times than good times. So you really need shoulder to lean your head out in those times, because these are the only people that you can share very honestly the real pains. So don't ever do entrepreneurship alone. Second, at least personally, I feel it's a lot about execution than idea. So I feel the worth or the merit of the idea is very overrated. So all of us cannot be Elon Musks, to do fundamental level innovations. So to figure out, okay, tomorrow I'm going to dig tunnels in the earth to solve the traffic problems, etc. So a lot of companies have a lot of ideas. So it's all about doing what is already existing, but in a much better way. Executing it quite well. Of course, you need to find a little bit of your niche as well. So what it means is your rigor or success of execution to a large extent depends on the sort of team or the sort of founding team that's leading the idea. So to a large extent, the success or more so a failure depends to a large extent on equation between the founders. So companies, I mean, it's very how cliched it may sound, companies fail because of equation between the founders many a times, not because of the idea or funding or execution or anything. So now, again, whatever I'm going to say, it's very commonsensical. I'm sure you can relate to and you even know. So there are three things you need to look at when you want to select a right co-founder or when you want to assess how good the founding team is. So maybe from investors angle or a markets angle, etc. So one is operational skills. So very common, right? I mean, to run a company, you need to have certain operational skills. So operational skills, what do they mean? So again, they can be categorized at a high level into few items. So one is, needless to say, engineering. So assuming there is some tech angle in your startup, so engineering becomes extremely critical. Second is product. So while they go hand in hand, but now there is a clear segregation between product and engineering. So third is your business development. So how good a product you may build, the success, I mean, again, this is personally what I can vouch for. Earlier I used to think, so product sells itself. Okay, all that matters is building an extremely strong product, but that's not true. So you need a very good sales engine. You need an army of people on the ground to sell the product, especially to scale the company. Maybe in the initial stages you need a very good product, but later scaling to a large extent depends on your sales motion. So good business development is a necessary skill to scale the company. And next is operations. So whether you are a B2C company or a B2B company or whatsoever, a D2C company. So operations, so it is where the rubber hits the ground, right? For example, for Darwinbox, we are a B2B company, SaaS company. So at the heart of one of the main things in Darwinbox is how we are implementing the product at the client's business. So for example, say if we look at our value chain, so say I build the product, Jayan sells it, and Rohit takes care of implementing that at the client level. So operations, especially, I mean, they also play a major role. So maybe repeating. One is product, engineering, operations, and then business development. One thing, again, good learning for me, which I haven't foreseen before starting the company, finance and investments. So just remember, this is going to be, unfortunately, if not full, 50% of bandwidth of a founder will be consumed on this, on finance and investments. And it is extremely critical a skill. So if you have a founder who appreciates all these things, I mean, finances and how to go and pitch to the investors, manage them, etc., it will be very useful. So how good you may have in terms of product depth or business development or operations, if this is lacking, so you will be relying excessively on investment bankers, and that's not a good place to go, with all due respect to investment bankers. So that's where, I mean, these are 4 critical skills. So when you look at your founding team, so just ensure, if not a very high level of expertise, at least orientation wise, so the team can be aligned to these skills. So product engineering, business development, operations, finance and investor relations. So these are operational skills that are required. So second category, which is very, very underrated, is actually behavioral skills. So if I look at least Darwin Box's journey, so we wouldn't have reached where we are today. I mean, I still won't consider it very, very successful, etc. But if this thing hasn't worked out for us, behavioral skills. So extremely difficult, but you should take time in assessing these things as well. Again, if I deconstruct what do I mean by behavioral skills, so the first thing is a temperament. So for example, say someone is aggressive, say 3 founders are there, all of them are very aggressive, highly tempered, etc. I'm telling you, I mean, it's going to do. So temperament plays a major role. If it is balanced, someone should be neutral, someone should be at the medium level, someone should be aggressive. So that is a boon. For example, among 3 of us, Jayant is extremely temperamental. So I am somewhere in between. So Rohit is the guy who can think very, very stably, even when sky is collapsing. So for example, that is where we put him for doing all the tough conversations. So and generally we rely on his decision in a very, very tense situation. Because many times you make mistakes on tense situations, right? I mean, when everything is fine, everyone can make very, very good decisions. So you make very bad decisions under stress and under pressure. That's where balanced temperament plays a major role. And the second is again gregariousness. So what it means is generally how introvert or how extrovert someone is. So all of you are introverts, all of you are extremely extroverts, and again it's not going to work out. So it would be very useful to have a balanced perspective on gregariousness as well. So the next is generally we will laugh at it, energy levels. So all of you are always charged and pumped up and keep bouncing all the day. Again may not be very good. So someone should be extremely positive, high energy. Someone should be at a mid-level, all that. So energy levels also, I think they play a good role. I mean, having a balanced set of energy levels among them is very, very good. So the last one and very, very important is risk perception. So we may see it is very, you're contradicting yourself. So if you are not taking the risk, so then how we would have started the company. So for starting the company, the pre-requirement is your ability to take the risk, right? I mean, what is again risk perspective among the founders? So risk perspective, it is not only about starting the company. I mean, every day in your decisions, how much risk you are taking. So what it means is experimenting certain new things and okay to fail. So because company is not unidimensional, right? I mean, you started something, it's not going to scale for 100 years. You need to keep pivot and build new things, go to the new markets, etc. So all of you are very risk averse and very, very traditional guys, and want to follow the book. It's not going to scale. At the same time, all of you are extremely high. You have extremely high propensity to do risk. So you want to do new things only and take risk only. That is what gives high. People say and get high. So you are all people who get high with the risk. And basically you will never your feet will never be on the ground. You'll always be doing something in the air. So that is where this ability to take risk or risk perspective, having a balanced thing is very, very useful. So now if I repeat on behavioral things, so temperament, gregariousness, energy levels and risk perception. So these are very, very critical things. The problem is, unlike operations, these are extremely difficult to measure, perceive and arrive at a conclusion. At least what helped us. So we relied on 2 instruments. I strongly suggest if you are starting a company and if you want to assess how balanced your team is from this perspective, one is MBTI, very, very powerful. So second is Hogan's assessment. So Hogan's assessment, it is not only about taking assessment, but to have a coach interpreting that assessment for you. So it would be like a 10,000 or 20,000. It's a worthy investment. So they will interpret, they will look at all your assessments together and see what are going to be stress points for you when you are collectively working together. So trust me, it is a very, very worthy investment. So do that for your founding team and look at the personal areas of improvement. See, your personality won't change. Okay, so for example, just because in MBTI or Hogan said something, from tomorrow you can't be someone else. You can't become the same, right? I mean, maybe from some extreme dimension to some other extreme dimension. But the thing is, at least you will get to know what things you need to keep in mind. So in terms of decision making, etc. So you will aware of your strengths and maybe not so strengths. So these two instruments I strongly recommend. And third is basically good to have things. Like I said, they are good to have. These are typically questions we keep facing. One is, so if you are a technology company, should we have a tech founder? For example, we don't have a tech founder. I only manage product. So I coded in 10 years back. So I don't code, I only manage product. But if you are a core technology product, so having a good tech founder, it goes a long way. So probably, we feel if one of us is a tech founder, definitely it will be much more useful. But you don't need to stop doing entrepreneurship just because one of you is not a tech founder, but it's good to have a tech founder. And second is, it is good to have one co-founder as a domain expert. So whatever domain you are taking, so if one of us is very, very deep in the domain, it will be very useful. So tech and domain expertise, these are good to have. But like I said, I don't want to say, okay, these are mandatory to have. Because end of the day, it is about self-sufficiency, right? I mean, when you look at the founding team, so the team itself should be self-sufficient, run the business, as much as possible. 100% self-sufficiency is not possible, but to the extent possible. So these are three buckets. So I just want to repeat: operational skills, behavioral skills, and good to have. But having said that, one thing that precedes and preempts all these things is basically your common vision. So when you start, it is good to sit together and understand what do each of you want to accomplish from the startup. Say someone want to say exit in 5 years, making a lot of money. Or for some guy, he wants to be on the Forbes whatever page. Okay, so someone wants to get maybe some Padma Shri. So these things should be aligned. So I'm telling you, otherwise your day-to-day things will go for a toss. I'll give you an example. So just 2 years after we started, so we got an acquisition offer from a very large company. So I think it was almost 150 million or 200 million. So back then, we still, I think, we owned maybe 70% of the company. So we came from very humble backgrounds. Okay, so just divide how much we would have gotten from that acquisition. So it would be very tempting, right? So so much money, but we didn't take that, and we had audacity to reject that because our vision is to build a big company. All three of us, not to make maybe some money and leave it. So just assume, okay, one of us is not aligned to that. So it would have been a big fight, right? So forget about the acquisition. Probably, the company wouldn't be existing today. So that common vision, especially, very simple. Okay, ask yourselves, what do you want to accomplish from this company? So if there is a great mismatch, then I'm telling you, it's a very, very big red flag. So that's pretty much it. I have time and happy to answer if you have any questions. Otherwise, yeah, that's it. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for throwing light on a very key subject of building the right team which is balanced with the right kind of co-founders. The points that you made, especially about a balanced temperament and a balanced energy level amongst the co-founders, was really relatable. Thank you so much. And like Maya Angelou once said, when we know better, we always do better with our teams and co-founders. Thank you once again. And now I would like to call upon the T-Hub team to present a memento to Sir for having taken out time from his busy schedule and be here amongst us to give us this enlightening talk. Huge round of applause for Sir. Thank you so much. With our sessions today, we have amongst us another highly talented and knowledgeable, a speaker who has great knowledge and insight on building business around sustainability, if I may say so. This particular gentleman is a serial entrepreneur and a founder of Recycle, which was founded in 2016. Recycle's digital solutions have brought end-to-end connectivity between various stakeholders in the waste management industry, which was a fragmented ecosystem altogether. He believes that technology is indeed the driving force behind brands, informal sectors, recyclers, aggregators, and the government authorities as well. Before Recycle, he also founded MarkJack in 2007 to create India's first SaaS company engaged with an enterprise e-commerce platform. The product market fit, sales, team, and its eventual scale. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for none other than Mr. Abhay Deshpande, who's the founder of Recycle. Please put your hands together for Sir. Sir, we welcome you with all our hearts. Thank you so much for taking out the time today. The stage belongs to you.
Thanks. Thanks for the great introduction. So, next 10-15 minutes, I would like to share with you that the latest venture which we are building, which is around sustainability and which is a new buzzword. Started in 2016. I think this is my third baby. Every startup is like a baby because the kind of attention, kind of nurturing you have to do, and every baby is special. Every baby is different. So I have done two startups before. So I'll just give you a context about my startup journey. Like I just in the 25th year of my entrepreneurship journey, started in 97, 98. So I started the first marketplace of India in 97, 98, and that was an e-commerce marketplace where people were not even aware about internet. And I started working on a marketplace model. Ran it for 7 years. The company name was Malamal.com. First marketplace, first payment gateway in India was given to that company. Couldn't become Malamal from monetary perspective, but learned a lot about entrepreneurship. It was really a learning experience. In 2008, I started the first SaaS company of India, software as a service, that called MarkJack. After that, a lot of companies came up. And in 2015, that got acquired by Capillary Technologies, which is a Singapore-based company, one of the recent exits during those days. So after 17 years of a tough entrepreneurial journey, I could see that cycle got closed and all my investors, all the employees, team members, some wealth got created. And I think that was something the most satisfactory day for me, that I could bring a change in at least 200 to 250 people's life. So after doing that, I came out. I was there for 1.5 years, and being an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. So this time I was looking for some real problem to be solved. The whole idea was, I have done e-commerce, I have done SaaS. What's next? What is the next big challenge to be solved? And somewhere that gut feel and instinct that waste management looks like opportunity. And waste is everywhere. We all know that. Everyone, every consumer, every household, every business actually deals with waste. It's a common problem. At the same time, we saw that the country is spending so much of money on the waste management, but still the problem is same. There is no solution for it. And we thought that, can we do something there? Is a disruption possible there? By then, like most of the startups were coming and trying to disrupt the business before consumption, pre-consumption and consumption state. We saw Ola, Swiggy coming in and solving some problem at a consumption and pre-consumption stage. But nobody was looking at the post-consumption stage of the product and resources. So we felt that it looks like opportunity, and we didn't really know the sustainability and circular economy word by then. By then it was a kachre business, right? The recycle from a kabadi wala, digital kabadi wala to a sustainability platform in last 6 years has been a journey. We really, all these words which we talk today and the topic which is given to me, sustainability, was not even heard of in 2016 or 17 we started. So we felt that this is an opportunity, this problem to be solved. And just to give some numbers, waste management has such a large impact on all of us in the country that 1.7% of Indian population gets food every day because somebody in their family is working in waste management. And even IT doesn't have that kind of impact. And that's the bottom of the pyramid, very bad situation. The kind of life they live is very bad. So that kind of like almost 3.5 crore people, right? They get paid because of somebody is working from collection to recycling. And it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge, like quite a big opportunity. So we felt let's try there, and that's where the whole journey of recycle started in 2016. As we know that the most important aspect of any startup is the team, and the team was the major focus for us also. So we got the right team in place. We have 4 more co-founders. We are 5 together, and we started the journey. I think Anirudh, Abhishek, Ekta, and Vikram are the other co-founders. So each one comes from a different background. So we got together. We said, okay, let's try to solve this problem and let's do something with it. Although we knew that it's not an easy problem to solve because it's very informal, very casual. So we gave first 2 years of our journey in only learning the space. And we could afford that. We wanted to just make sure that the solution which we are bringing to reality should be related to the problem. And we didn't know much. We have just few reports online. So we took that approach. We spent 2017 and 2018, these 2 years, going to each stakeholder, working with them at ground, met hundreds of practitioners, kawadiwalas, all those stakeholders, each one of them we interacted, tried to understand the way they do business. We could have done this with a create a platform and then go to them, but we took a reverse approach. And that 2 years, we call internally as a Harvard MBA in waste management. I think that actually gave us a lot of insights about what does the waste management works like, why there is a problem, and what is the solution we could bring in. So after spending those 2 years, a lot of learning, few things we learned that there is no bigger opportunity than waste management, like e-commerce, m-commerce, SaaS are very, very small as compared to waste management. This is not a new industry. This has been there for 100 years, 100 plus years. Waste is getting managed. But then it is not getting really the way it has to get managed. Because a lot of resources go to landfill, most of the segregation doesn't happen. The problem does exist from the consumer house to the recycler. The whole supply chain is very cash driven. No data, nobody has a data. Somebody did a survey in 2014 at 500 houses and found that 250 grams waste is generated, multiplied by the whole population is the data which we have. The reality is completely different. So we actually got those insights in those first 2 years, what MBA we call it as. And we converted those learning into business. And I think 2018 and 19 is a period where we really started converting those learning into business. So from the first approach, first we launched a product called Used, that is a consumer application in 2016-17, where any consumer can download an app and can give a waste available at his home. Right? It can be clothes, it can be paper, plastic, e-waste, anything. We had 500,000 downloads for that. We spent a lot of money. That was actually part of our MBA, in fact, because we wanted to really understand how this ecosystem works. And when we saw the consumer behavior and how the consumer looks at waste, and a lot of new interesting aspect came into it. We saw that the consumer looks at each waste differently. So plastic, for example, is for him, he just takes the plastic, consumes it and throw it in a dustbin. Paper, he will never throw in dustbin, right? Whether he is a millionaire or a billionaire, he will keep it somewhere and at 7 rupees kg, 8 rupees kg, it will get sold. And all of us must be handling the same situation at home. And e-waste generally is a legacy waste. E-waste is lying at people's houses. Even a Nokia 110 phone of 2000 is lying at somebody's house because the perceived value of that phone is pretty high. So people treat each waste differently. So creating a uniform model for the complete waste management was a challenge. But we felt that at the same time we understood that opportunity is more than $100 billion only in the waste. And that's where our journey started. We launched our B2B marketplace in 2019. That was our starting point. We closed the B2C, we pivoted from B2C to B2B. Launched our B2B marketplace. We were doing pretty good, like large enterprises, Infosys, Verizon used to channelize their waste. But a lot of them have a requirement of a traceability. And traceability and visibility became a very important aspect from the SDG goals and ESG goals. And that started coming in picture in 2019. Till then, nobody was really talking about it. By the time we got 1,000 plus clients and we were really going aggressive, the pandemic happened. And that's where another next level of pivot we have to do. We realized that now the next 1 or 2 years, all the corporates, all the bulk waste generators will not be there. That's where we then pivoted to an informal segment. We said that looks like a space which we need to go for. And 80% of the waste goes there anyways. All these kawadiwalas, aggregators, rag pickers, although they were in our agenda for 22-23, but we have to creep on it. And that I think was a changing point for us. And then we pivoted completely, made our platform available for them, went to them, and two learnings we got that waste never stops. Whether it was a pandemic or non-pandemic, waste was flowing. And then we realized that this is a business which is pandemic and decision free, because whether it is a decision or not, the consumption is not going to stop. There is going to be a waste going to keep on getting generated. So I think we saw that the pandemic, every business was impacted, everyone was impacted, but we saw 3 to 4x growth even in the last 2 years of pandemic. And the business was going, people have to collect the waste, it has to be processed. And during this process, we realized that we are actually bringing the circularity to the whole material flow. Because circular economy is nothing, this plays a major role into sustainability in business. Sustainability is a broader segment, but a subset is circular economy. And what we realized it while doing it. We were talking about marketplace, and then we realized that we are bringing circularity amongst the product. We are actually, the consumer, the brand has produced it, sold it to the consumer has consumed it. Then we bought it back to the recycler, and recycler is again bringing it to the brand to use it again. So that actually brought the complete circularity, and naturally the reuse, recycle, the existing resources are used more, so naturally there is a sustainable way of doing business. So that really started working well, and from say 30-40 people, initial team of 4-5 people who became almost a 300 people team now. And one thing happened in between that, there was in 2017, the government came up with a regulation where every brand has to take care of the waste they are generating. And that actually was a game changer in the waste management. Like what demonetization did for fintech industry in 2016, where the whole perspective changed. This regulation of EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, did it for the waste management industry, where suddenly 50,000 brands became a part of waste ecosystem, which they were not earlier. So that was their responsibility, is a compliance requirement, so they have to fulfill it. So today, after 5 years, right, six and a half years almost, we are seeing that even a business, a tech business, can be built in waste. We are seeing that there are 30-40,000 rag pickers, 5,000 kabadiwalas, recyclers. All of these guys are using technology. When we used to go to them initially, most of them said, internet pe kaun kharidega? The first question they used to ask is, kachra internet pe kaun kharidta hai sab? Kyun kar rahe ho sab? So I think if there is a value, if you are bringing, what we did is we actually removed a couple of stakeholders which were not required in the ecosystem, that this interpretation which we did, where there were 7 people. By the time the waste goes out of your home and it reaches to the recycler, it goes through 7 different hands. And out of the 3-4 don't add any value. They're just there because they have that muscle power and strength. So we actually removed those 2-3 stakeholders. That value which was coming actually has gone to the people who are doing all the dirty work of collection at the ground level. And that actually brought the change. And technology anyway today, 55 to 60% of rag pickers have smartphones. So they do when we did that MBA, we realized that they do that work up to 11, 30, 12, whatever money they make, they buy their drinks and then use YouTube for consuming local contents for 3-4 hours per day. So we said the phone is available, technology is there. Thanks to Jio, it's like everyone has a internet access also. So using that disruption, even the level of rag picker also started using the platform and really started gaining. And as I always say, there are only 2 things which changes the behavior. One is the fear factor or a greed, one of them. In the case of rag pickers, it was a greed because they were getting extra benefits from us, so they adopted our technology. In case of brands, there was a fear factor because it was a compliance requirement. If they don't comply with the regulation, their business was at risk. So both things really worked, and at the right time, with the right intervention from government also helped us. So today I think we see that from the kabadiwala collecting clothes and paper from people's home to a location where we are working with 150 or 200 brands today for their sustainability and ESG goals. They are using our platform on technology is a journey which we have crossed. Huge opportunity in sustainability. I generally tell them that every company today, thanks to pandemic, I think people understood the value of resources and sustainability. 2 years back, nobody was as bullish about the sustainability as it was before. Today, every company, at least the multinational companies, are pretty serious about it. They wanted their ESG goals not to be just on the report at the ground level. They wanted even to involve their employees into the process, and that's where we are providing them the platforms and technology to achieve their ESG goals and sustainability goals and bring that circularity into the ecosystem. We have been growing, as I said, 3 to 4x. We are right now a 300 people team. recently raised a Series A from Morgan Stanley around 3-4 months back, and there are enough interest from the investment community for this space, because this is something, even the recession comes now, ESG is going to be a focus area, because the financial benefits for the company, the funding, even for a small startup like us, when we raised the first round of $2 million, there was a ESG audit. So that kind of seriousness now ESG and sustainability is taking up. So I think the corporate world, and unless this goes to a consumer, unless somebody takes it to the consumer level, unless the consumer is aware about his own personal sustainability goals, that we are not going to see a real impact. At the same time, with so many million consumers, we have a great opportunity. So I see that sustainability is a space which is going to be the next big thing. I think we're going to see multiple startups coming and building solutions around it. We happen to be there. We never started as a sustainability platform. Now many startups are coming and saying, day one we are a sustainability platform company, but we evolved there from a Kavadi Wala to a sustainability platform. And we see that opportunity is much larger in the coming years. From our side, we are aiming that by 2025, we would like to be a company which is defining sustainability standards for the corporates in India. And we want most of them to use our platform for the same. At the same time, we would like to channelize 7 to 8% of India's waste through our ecosystem. So it doesn't go to landfill, it doesn't go to the places like ocean, and it gets at the right place for getting it recycled. So this is the vision we have. I'm sure with the right team and right ecosystem, we seem to be on a right path to achieve that. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? The floor is open. Thank you so much, sir, for throwing light on waste management and reminding us again that as long as we live, waste is going to be a part of our lives, and how entirely thriving businesses can be built on something so close and so basic to life as waste. Not just built in a thriving way, but sustained over the years to come. Thank you so much for that. A huge round of applause for Mr. Abhay Deshpande. Requesting our T-Hub team to once again present a memento. Sir, you've taken out time for us today, and you've indeed added a lot of value to this iconic day. We would like to have a picture along with our colleague from T-Hub and sir. Along with the memento.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Once again, we are indeed honored to have you here with us. On behalf of T-Hub and the government of Telangana, to invite all of you to the great grand launch of T-Hub's brand new avatar, T-Hub Phase 2, which is the world's largest innovation campus. And not just that, the world's largest incubator for over 2,000 brand new startups, all based on innovation, creativity, but most importantly, entrepreneurship. Indeed, T-Hub Phase 2 is going to be a brand new melting pot of innovation and creativity, but the entrepreneur is going to be at the spotlight of it all. Ladies and gentlemen, T-Hub Phase 2 is right here, right now. And yes, it is going to house and host a lot of upcoming brand new talent, a lot of upcoming tech startup innovation founders, not just from Telangana, but from across the country. And as I resume my speaker sessions, one thing is for sure, that Hyderabad is indeed up and ready for the challenge. On that note, I would like to introduce another keynote speaker who is extremely talented and knowledgeable, and who is here to bust and challenge the status quo of the startup culture in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, this particular gentleman is the founder and CEO of No Broker, a disruptive real estate platform and one of the fastest growing startups in our country today. No Broker has raised $20 million so far. A staggering 3 million Series A from SAIF Partnership and Fulcrum Ventures in January 2015 and KTB Network, and another 17 million Series B round which was led by BNext and KTB Network and has participated by SAIF partners, Benos, Qualbro and Mamaro in 2016. NoBroker.com is the world's largest C2C real estate platform that is eliminating the brokers and the agents in the real estate transactions with a tech-based approach. They have helped owners and the seekers save more than 90% on all of the transactional cost. Before starting NoBroker in 2014, this gentleman has worked for companies like CTS, PwC and Australia New Zealand Bank, and is an alumnus for IIT Kanpur and IIM Ahmedabad. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for none other than Mr. Amit Kumar Agarwal, who is the founder and CEO of NoBroker. So we welcome you.
So guys, I am the co-founder and CEO of NoBroker.com, and my objective in this short 10-15 minute session is to talk about our journey, and more importantly, what are the learnings that we have had in the past so many years, which I believe many of the startup enthusiasts and many of the founders who are here perhaps have been. So I'm not sure how many of you have heard about NoBroker.com, but we are a platform which connects in real estate, which connects owners and sellers, owners and tenants and buyers and sellers directly with each other without any broker in between. And I am an alumnus of, so I'll just tell you about my journey also and how it juxtaposes with the learnings that we have had. So after IIT Kanpur, I am Ahmedabad, like everybody else. I chased management consulting job, and surprisingly, I love management consulting. So I was there for almost a decade, and then I joined a foreign bank, ANZ Bank. Very comfortable job, very well-paying job, great work-life balance. But at that point of time, I basically felt that if I continue with this job, my objective would be to now change to another foreign bank, get a higher salary and so on and so forth. And the challenge was missing to that extent. On the parallel side, since I have had been in consulting, I had shifted to many cities, and I discovered that Indian brokers, a large number of them, real estate brokers, they don't add much value. And we were surprised as to why is it so that we Indians end up paying such a high amount of brokerage to these brokers who are neither that much educated, nor have a license, nor take everything in cash, and such a high amount of fees they are charging for just connecting two people. And that also in this internet world where I can send a friend request to anybody, to every celebrity in the world, they may or may not accept it, but I can. So, me, my batchmate from Ahmedabad, and our junior from IIT, all three of us started thinking that why should we start something which connects owners and tenants and buyers and sellers directly with each other. The initial reaction that we got was pretty mixed. I would say more on the side of negative. So many of the founders here who are trying to do something which is very innovative, they can perhaps echo with this. So the biggest challenge that we faced was that people said that it has not been done anywhere else in the world. So nowhere else in the world is there a company which connects both the parties directly in real estate without any broker. It happens in travel. In travel, there is no longer any travel agent. In stockbroking, we know how the costs have come down. So we said that we don't know what is the reason, but we believe that in this internet world, you should not be paying such high fees to connect two parties with each other. When we told this to our friends basically said that, hey, but why will a consumer pay you in advance? See, what happens in real estate across the world is that first of all, a job gets done and then the payment happens. Nowhere in the world on a platform does a consumer pay first and then expect the job to be done. Because we are not on the street, we are a tech company, we don't have people on the street, so we need to take money in advance for getting a deal closed, which was a valid argument. And then when we approached VCs, the biggest question that they ask is that, yeah, it seems like a good idea, and we ourselves as consumers don't love brokers. But if it's such a great idea, then why isn't there a US company? Why isn't there a Chinese company which is big? Where is the Amazon and the Uber equivalent of this? We don't know why isn't there a US equivalent. Perhaps in other countries there is more accountability, there are examinations for brokers, there are licenses. But we know about India. In India, we feel that we are being shortchanged. So I left my well-paying job and basically bootstrapped for a year. And as many of you know, when you leave your job, you get lots of phone calls from your friends congratulating you as to how good decision you have taken. But slowly the friends disappear into their own lives and you are left alone, thinking that, hey, had I gone to office today, I would have earned so much. So that was our journey for the first 1 year. We approached lots of VCs because real estate is a pretty competitive field and it requires funds. So we knew that we couldn't bootstrap it all the way. And VCs said the same thing, where is US equivalent? And then another large real estate online company basically got funded from SoftBank, and then everybody who was still talking to us just vanished overnight because nobody wanted to take the risk of funding other companies. But on the plus side, our consumers kept on increasing. So my learning in this phase has been that when you are trying to do something new, which most probably as a founder you are going to try and do something new, nobody knows the answer. Your friends don't know the answer, VCs also don't know the answer. Only the consumers know the answer. So the best trick is to ask lots and lots of customers. If customers are favoring you or favoring your solution at the price point that you want, then you are on the right. That has been our journey. So we continued our path without funding, also by putting our own money. The number of consumers kept on rising. And C2C, because the topic is also C2C network. C2C is very, very difficult because you might get a particular property in Gachibowli on a particular street, and it is of no advantage if the tenant is of some other locality, the buyer of some other locality. You need to have the buyer of the tenant for the same locality, for the same street, for the same price point, and that also today. So that C2C matchmaking is a very, very micro locality matchmaking. It's a very difficult matchmaking to start with. So it takes a longer time. But this is also one of the reasons why nobody else in the world has attempted this. So C2C is a tougher problem. After a year, we got funded through set partners who said, let's take them. Seems to be nice guys. And after we got a $3 million funding from them, which was around 18 crores at that point of time, we remained to be extremely frugal. So after having 80 crores in the bank, we did not buy an AC in the summer for our office. We took a simple home instead of a corporate office, and we said, water cooler se kaam chila lete hain, wo bhi bahar. But let's try to save as much money as we can. So we respected money like crazy. For all we did not do any TV advertisement. We were extremely careful in terms of doing more of retail marketing so that we get consumers at good ROI. Even the retail marketing that we did, extremely focused as to what is the ROI that we are getting. Typical behavior in the consumer internet is to quickly expand to more and more. We did not expand to more and more. We realized that our business is difficult. If I am not able to get you a house in Hyderabad, you don't care a damn whether I am in Meerut or whether I am in Lucknow or whether I am IT or I am not. What you care is whether my work gets done. So we took a contrarian approach, and despite many of the investors telling us otherwise, we remain to be only two cities, Bombay and Bangalore. And we expanded slowly only when we saw that the customer's problem is getting solved. Only when he's getting a house or only when he's able to sell his house did he move to any other. In terms of what we did not expect was one thing. That one day outside our office, which was basically a home, we saw a huge group of 50-60 people. And we thought perhaps it's a religious procession which is going on. But actually they were a group of brokers who wanted to attack the office, break things, scare our employees. And it was just out of the blue. In a city like Bangalore, which is such a startup friendly city, you never expect. So a huge ruckus followed. They slapped many of our employees. We thankfully had a iron grille door which we closed, and because of which the things did not get escalated further, thankfully, and we basically just sat inside. We called police. Police took us foreigners to the police station. And we suddenly figured out that we are the ones who are sitting in the police seat, but the brokers are still there. And as usual, local brokers are much more friendly with the police than us startup owners. Unfortunately, the problem continued. That those group of people used to harm the motorbikes parked outside the office for the employees, chase the female employees towards their home in the evening. So finally, we had to vacate the office almost on a overnight basis. And even when we were vacating the office, the vehicle which was carrying the stuff was chased by brokers trying to know what is the next step. So we temporarily switched to 2 offices. We searched for a new office, and then we found a new office. And even today, we keep our office addresses secret. So whatever office address we have on Google is wrong. And we try not to be in the eyes of brokers. And another thing which happened in Paddle was in the other startup, the instant startup, got included because of the reason that you are there. And we thought that there was a chance. Now, what we are doing makes sense. There is no other extremely highly funded startup, so we will get a chance. But the reverse happened. All the bases in the country suddenly got very scared. They said, what's the problem? Nobody in real estate is able to make money. We have funded so many real estate companies in India. No one is able to make money. There must be some problem in this industry. So we are not touching it. So for the next 5 years, we did not get any additional funds from any Indian investor. And apart from the one who basically funded us in the start, which was SAP Partners, now called the Revolution. But we kept on, so we went to South Korea, we went to Japan, we went to Singapore. We basically got hold of any small investors in $500,000, $1 million, whatever we could, just to survive. The objective was to basically survive and slowly to keep on going. In terms of revenue, we basically initiated our paid plan, so we still have people platform. You can check out properties on google.com free of cost. But for paid services we charge. So just after 5-6 months of opening our office, we started the paid plans. And our investors were like, why are you such a hurry? You got money in your bank, why don't you take some time, grow the numbers? But you're like, revenue is the ultimate truth. And it is very easy to basically build in India with such a large population. It is often easy to build a platform, a lot of customers who are not paying. But unless you start asking them to pay, you never know whether your startup has a potential or not. So we started with some monetization. And I can tell you that for Indian consumers, 0 rupees, moving from 0 rupee to 1 rupee, is extremely difficult. For your service, you just need to say also 0 is 1. Very, very difficult. For customers to pull out their wallet and give you 1 rupee. But once you make that change, once consumers start giving 1 rupee, surprisingly 1 rupee to 1,000 rupees are comparatively very easy. Once they start trusting you and giving you money, then increase the ticket size surprisingly very easy. Which happened with us. So another contrarian thing which we did was basically starting to play with, can we charge, how much can we charge. And this journey is full of learning, because the moment you start charging, certainly the customer thinks that he owns you. Indian customer thinks he owns you and you need to serve him with the best, more than what he has paid, which is a revelation and which takes some time to learn, which we did. And along the way, what we did, other things we did was, what worked well for us was that we kept on listening and learning from customers. So we thought that it's a residential property build. Customer told us that we want commercial, not big buildings like this, but small commercial shop. So we launched commercial. We started rental. Customers asked us that can you do buy and sell? We did buy and sell. Then they expanded to packers and movers, and painting, cleaning, and home interiors, and insurance. And then as we basically started growing and more customers started trusting us, then the VC world also basically started contacting us. So 2 years back we got funded from Tiger Global, from Atlantic, and last year we basically became the first prop tech unicorn in the country. So the data is wrong here. And I would say that, of course, unicorn is something which is being talked a lot about nowadays. But the thing that we are most proud of is that today we add from a day 7-8 years back when we had used to add 1,000 customers a month. Today we add 5 to 6 lakh new customers a month. Our cumulative customer base has crossed 2 crore. We are India's largest, not only in real estate, but we are also India's largest packers and movers aggregator. We are in 6 cities, slightly newer in Hyderabad, but very excited about it. And now, in terms of R&D, we feel that 2 crore कुछ भी नहीं किया है. Look at India's population, we feel everybody needs a house, everybody needs to participate in this event, and we're just where we started. So guys, my key learning in this journey has been one, that always listen to customer, because there is always going to be people in VC community among your friends who will either be too polite or will be too harsh. Let the consumer decide. Second is that be frugal. No matter how much money you have in your bank, whether you are non-funded or funded, always respect money, because it always pays in the long term, and it also builds a very, very good culture. Third, revenue is super important. Try to get to revenue as soon as you can, even if it is just getting your feet. And fourth, don't copy competitors. While everybody else in PropTech expanded to 10 cities, 20 cities, even today, after having 2,000 crore in the bank today, we are only in 6 cities. Because we feel that we have not solved the problem for these 6 cities. So we need to conquer these 6 cities fully, then we will go to success. So these have been my few learnings. I hope this has been useful for many of the startup owners. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing light on this very important subject of brokers and how they eat up so much of this hard-earned money during this entire process of transaction between the seeker and the owner in the real estate business. Thank you so much for taking out the time and adding this value to Team Up Phase 2's vision of creating a common platform for innovation and entrepreneurship. On that note, I would like to call upon our team from T-Hub to present a memento to Sir. Could I have the team from T-Hub please to present a memento to Mr. Amit Kumar Agarwal, who has taken out his valuable time for all of us today. May we have a huge round of applause for Sir. Thank you so much, sir. At the same time, I would like to ask all of you if there are any questions, any queries, sir. Would you stay back, Mr. Amit Kumar Agarwal, sir? I would request you to just stay back. The floor is now open for questions if there are any regarding the subject. Sir, could I have you back on board with us? Exactly, sir. Yes, sir. Could I have a mic passed on to sir?
Yes, sir. Hi, I am Samuel, a founder and CEO of MyStartup TV. Yes. So, my question is how to keep the trust maintained in your team. How they should keep supporting you even though you are getting back-to-back failures and having those downs at the beginning. And I have seen into real estate and construction and facing challenges with suppliers in market. So that's my question.
So see, in the startup journey, you will continuously face challenges, and it doesn't matter because year 1 or year 8 the same thing goes. us. But I think our learning has been to be extremely transparent with our people. Because even for us, when the broker happened, people were very worried, and only close one. And we had a lot of quick town halls saying that this is what will happen, this is what we are going to do. Because even if you have a 2-member team or a 20-member team, the amazing thing is that your teammates are much more observant than you think they are. So they can always read your body language, they can understand whether you are worried, whether you are serious. Our learning has been extremely transparent. Tell them the worries that you are facing, tell them the solution that you are supposed to attempt. So our learning is that building trust is a long-distance process. But once trust is built, then your team needs to do anything for you.
Thank you so much for that question. I will still pass it to myself.
Thank you very much, that was really insightful. My name is Sharon, I work in the business school here. And you spoke about brokers and how you seem to have disintermediated the brokers and create the connection with the people, sellers, or owners. Have you thought of incorporating them into the ecosystem that you have built? And we have seen many cases where platforms have done that. Traditionally, they have disintermediated, but then brought them back. And because they have local knowledge, they seem to have some value still to add. So have you thought of integrating them into a network? If yes, how? If no, why?
No, so it's a very good question. And philosophically, what we think is that many of the brokers are amazing. It is not that every broker is bad. And the brokers who are good, who think about the welfare of their clients, nobody can take their business. So a platform like No Broker can never take the business of well-meaning brokers who care about their clients. But the problem is that because majority of the brokers are here for quick money. They don't have license, they take everything in cash, and they do a part-time business, part-time shop, and they do this also. So they have become more like deal closers who care more about their brokerage rather than the benefit of their client. So philosophically, we are okay. We would be happy to work with brokers. But the problem is that we would want to work with them given two conditions. One, the cost should be very low for them. So you can't charge 1 month of brokerage. You have to charge 3,000 rupees or 110 per month or to the max, which brokers are not working. And second is that the customer focus and customer delight should be centered, not deal closure. Because we think about next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. We are not thinking about somebody who's walking in and just fleece him and then you will see about it later. So these are the two things that we are finding it difficult to work with. But philosophically, there is no problem.
Okay. Hi, Amin. Hi. Myself, Shekhar. I run a company called as V1. In a similar firm, I run an integrated facility management firm where we provide like pretty much security, housekeeping, and all maintenance services. So any place where we work with an integrated community or commercial space, you are one among those vendors where we work along with as well. And I've heard about your journey and your whole firm. Firstly, I want to really appreciate you actually created this market. It never existed before. When we compare to the orthodox way of running businesses. So this is a next generation business which you created this platform. So altogether, money is the byproduct of what we do, but we're creating employment, we're creating revenue and generation and all these things. It's a very inspiring story. So what I want to ask you on this specific note is something, No Broker missing out on the facility management part where we look at, we're growing up. So I started off with just security services. Now I have a couple of thousand people working in my firm and I operate in 6 states. Some are going international as well next year. So I've already touched 100 crore turnover this year, so which is a phenomenal growth considering the pandemic and what we're doing. So I kind of look at all your inspiring stories. So is there anywhere where we could work together, something we could, come into an umbrella where we work together, like a form a similar platform. So because what we really look at is your homegrown, so this is all about the next startup. India is all about your homegrown. So we are next to none. So is there anywhere where we could work together in terms of facility management? That is one aspect which Mobile has never touched. So yeah.
That makes sense. So and congrats for building what you are building.
Thank you so much.
Management is a very, very tough job. Extremely tough job. We are much more focused on the job which has much bigger tech angle towards because that has been our DNA. We have a branch of business which is called No Broker, in which what we do is basically companies with apartment and apartments where we give visitor management and we with society.
And you provide VMS for the
facility for society. So we are in 10,000 plus societies across the world, and we are in a lot of societies in Hyderabad also. So we'll be very happy to work with you as facility management in the no brokerhood business.
Absolutely. So I could see, there's a bigger platform, where we could kind of build an interface, and we could add this wing to, and also, so post this, we could actually, meet up on this. A pleasure, great story, and proud, we are creating this market, all together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Do we have any further questions? Yes.
This is Pragar. This is a question from a customer point of view. I'm a consumer because I have taken your services. One of my friends yesterday I was meeting him, and he was complaining about a customer delay, which you just talked about. So this guy asked for his service. His things got shifted, moved to Hyderabad, and a lot of things got damaged. Now he's trying to reach back to the people who did that. No response. He has done all the things. He has sent out the messages, everything. So my question is, how do you make sure that these kind of things, even I know it's not avoidable, if it happens, how do you take care of those kind of questions?
So it's a very good question, and you should write to me. Amit at nobroker.com, so please ask a friend to write to me directly. See, even if one customer basically has a bad experience, that is bad for us. Although it's easy for us to sit in an AC office and look at the numbers and say that, hey, we do so many lakhs of movements per year, and hence even if 1% of